Hello students, today we are going to be talking about the last 50 days strategy before your examination. These last 50 days are extremely crucial. Before these 50 days, you might have done some coaching. You might have studied something. I'm expecting at least you must have done 50 to 70% of your course already. But these last 50 days are extremely crucial. You have to make sure that you don't do some silly mistakes that we are going to be discussing in this video. And you have to make sure that you do some very important things that we are going to be discussing in this video to make the most of this attempt that you are going to be giving. Let's start off right away with this 50-day strategy for your examination. Okay, the first point is that you will have to plan. Okay, see, you have 50 days. Whatever time you're watching this video, make sure you calculate the number of days that are available and the number of chapters that you're left to read. Also, how many revisions will you be able to do? Okay, so let's say in your syllabus, you have done 70 to 80% of the syllabus already. That means you have to do 20% syllabus. Plus after that, you will have to start your revision. Accordingly, you will have to do the calculation. Okay, whatever time is left, divide it into the number of days that you will need for these subjects. Roughly, you can have 4 to 5 days for each of these subjects, and in that much time, you will have to revise everything. Okay, so whatever you have studied in the first reading, you will have to go through all of that one more time. And apart from that, you will have to take up 3 exam papers of the last 3 attempts with their suggested answers. And if you're a CA student, then also you will have to take up the revision test paper. That is of the last 2 attempts, you will have to take it up and you will have to solve all of these. Basically, this is going to give you an idea about the examination. This will help you understand which are the chapters that are weak for you, which are the chapters you need to work on. You're feeling some fear or anxiety. All of that fear and anxiety for you is going to dissolve once you do these exam papers. It is also going to help you in understanding the exam paper pattern. This is going to be massively beneficial for you, especially if you're someone who's getting marks in 30s or maybe 40s who are having problem in their aggregates. If you're having problem in your aggregates doing exam papers in full, not just the scanners or the compilers, taking the actual full exam papers, seeing all of those questions, trying to solve them, trying to practice them, right? Seeing your mistakes, all of that is going to be so much beneficial. It is going to give you those additional 5 to 10 marks that you need to pass the examination. So make sure you definitely do them. Now, if you do have time, then maybe you can also sit down to do mocks. However, I have seen many students who have not written mocks, but they still clear the examination. So, writing mocks is not compulsory, but having some sort of practice of the exam, that is what makes all the difference. So, you can do that exam practice by simply looking at the exam papers and the RTPs and the mock papers that are stated, that are available on the Institute's portal also. Now, there are some important points that you should remember in these last 50 days. Let's discuss these do's and don'ts. The first one is that around this time, you should not take up any new material. Okay, so the first reading that you have done, you must have taken some book. Now you have to stick to that one book only. Even if the world's best book comes into the picture, you have to ignore that book and you just have to focus on that one book that you have already done. Now, sometimes it happens that the book that you have studied, it might have 10-20% errors also in it, right? But still, you basically have to focus on completing at least 90-95% of the syllabus nicely. No matter what book you take up from the market, at least 90% of the syllabus is going to be correct in it. It is going to be good enough book if it is selling in the market. Right? So accordingly, whatever book you have studied from, even if it has a few errors here and there, still stick to that book. Why? Because revising that book is basically going to improve your retention abilities, right? Because subconsciously you remember the text of this book. If you take up any new book, then that book will absolutely feel like new, even though the concepts are same. We want to avoid that kind of wastage of time. It may be possible that some of you might have done some chapters from this book, some other chapters from that book. By the way, if you have done something like that, then please don't change it. In that case, make a list of the chapters that you have done from this book and the chapters that you have done from the other book. And then according to that list, even in the second reading, do those chapters from this book and that book only. That means basically do the revision from the same material, even if you have 2 materials. This is one mistake that a lot of students do and they waste up a lot of time and then they suffer later in the examination. We have to avoid it. Another important point is that because very limited time is left, I would not suggest you to take up any new coaching. If you have already some pending coaching, try to finish it off as soon as possible. Maybe in 10-20 days, just finish it off. And along with taking up that coaching, also complete that chapter's revision by yourself. If you have some questions to practice, then make sure that you're practicing those questions simultaneously with the coaching. But don't join any new coaching. Similarly, if you're thinking of taking up some sort of marathon lectures or crash course, then make sure you've planned enough for it. Okay. Usually, these fast track courses or marathons, they only help you you if you have already studied the course once. If you have not studied the course at all and you're thinking that just by doing these marathons or fast track lectures, you will basically be able to study the whole thing, then that plan might not work out. See, simple fast track lectures also take up 20 to 30 hours minimum. And you will need at least 10 days to finish up all of those lectures along with simultaneous revision. So make sure that if you're taking up any such coaching, then you properly plan for it. And I would personally suggest that you don't take up any new coaching when you're reading the theory subjects, okay, or when you're reading the theory of a practical subject. Try to use active recall technique. That means at this time, you have to read the provision and then put a hand on it and then try to recollect whatever you studied in your own language. Basically, this active recall technique will help you remember these provisions, and in the examination, you actually have to remember these provisions. Then only you will be able to solve the case study questions that are coming or the practical questions also that are coming. Usually in the first reading, we just read up the whole text and we just try to understand whatever is stated, but we don't try to remember it. So around this time, make sure that you do remember all of these provisions so that you can retain them till your examination. Next important thing that you will have to remember is that in these 50 days, when you will complete the course and start revising, you will have to plan for that 1.5 days before the examination. See, right now we are giving 4 to 5 days for the entire subject. So that means in one day, you can probably do 3 chapters, right? So that means for each of the chapter, you're getting roughly 4 hours, right? But in the examination just before that, you will only have 12 to 15 hours in total to complete your entire syllabus. So that basically means that for one chapter, you will only get 30 minutes to 1 hour. Okay, so accordingly, right now only make sure that you have marked everything important so that if you're told that you have to revise this entire chapter in just 1 hour, you're able to do it. Okay, because we will have to follow those strict deadlines in the last 1.5 days. So make sure you plan for it right now only. How are you going to plan for it? Well, right now when you're revising, make sure that in the chapter you're marking some important questions. Only seeing those questions will help you recall everything in that particular chapter. If it is a practical chapter, if it is a theory chapter, on the other hand, you have to basically revise all the provisions. So in every single provision, you're marking the main things. Okay, so that just seeing those provisions, you will recollect and you will quickly be able to revise the entire chapter in half an hour or 1 hour. The next important thing that you have to make sure you do is that around this time, because you will be revising, it might get a little boring to do just one subject for a prolonged period of time. So therefore, it is suggested that you do 2 or 3 subjects together. Okay, so if you have allotted 4 days for one subject, then that basically means that you will have to complete 2 subjects in 8 days. So maybe you can just divide the day into 2 parts. Half day you give it to one subject, which could be theory subject. The other half you give it to practical subjects. And simultaneously, when you keep revising, you also solve the exam papers relating to that, right? The next thing is, how many hours should you be studying around this time? See, this is the last lap of your race. This is the most crucial time. So if earlier you were studying for 6 hours to 8 hours, around these last 50 days, 10 to 12 hours is the minimum that you should be studying. Okay, basically your entire day should be going only in planning studies and doing the studies. Whatever else is there in your life, it should just be restricted to your chores. Okay, unless you have some job that you have to attend, or unless you have kids and you have to attend them, it's a different story. But for the most part, apart from your study, your focus should only be on the bare necessities of life. That could be eating, that could be sleeping, that could be taking a shower, that could be just taking care of the very close people in your life that are important. Another extremely crucial tip around this time is that at this point, the stakes are so high that we cannot expect any distractions. By this time, you should have left social media. By this time, you should have left all the distractions in your life, including any weird relationships that you must be having or friendships that you must be having. You should have told your friends or girlfriends or boyfriends or other people in your life that your priority is very clear at this point and you have to dedicate 10 to 12 hours every single day to your studies. You should have done all of that. And if you haven't done, then make sure that you do it. Make arrangements so that all the emotional distress or all the emotional triggers are avoided around this time, because at this point we cannot afford any sort of distractions or distress. Already this exam is extremely stressful in general for everybody. We do not want anything else from outside to trigger our stress and to make us feel insecure. So if there are elements like that outside, identify them and please remove them for the last 50 days. Coming from that, there is one more tip that you should be following, extremely crucial. You have to take care of your health. That's mean means that you will have to take care of your mental health also and physical health also. So for physical health, you have to make sure that you're taking enough sleep. Make sure that you also eat right, you eat clean, you don't do any such activities which are going to give you some sort of disease or jeopardize your health. Along with that, mental health is also extremely important. At this time, keeping calm and having a positive attitude is extremely important, for which I suggest that you do meditation. With respect to meditation, I'll suggest that you watch this one video next, and it is really going to help you in staying calm and positive and affirmative towards your examination. So I hope this video helps you. I'll see you again in another video. Take care of yourself. Bye.